Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into the truly incredible, surviving story of an African Muslim in early American history, Omar Ibn Said. It's this massive, sweeping story about resilience, memory, and honestly, the enduring power of the human spirit.
Right off the bat, we're hit with a stark reality. He was forcibly taken from his homeland and thrown into a world he didn't choose. Just imagine that for a second. The absolute devastating shock of being totally uprooted from the only life you've ever known.
They literally took his physical freedom, forcing him across an ocean and completely severing him from everything familiar. He was thrust into a brutal system designed entirely to strip away his humanity and his autonomy.
But here's the thing. There was one fundamental piece of his identity they just couldn't take, and that was his faith. His name was Omar Ibn Said, and against all odds, his story is hands down one of the most powerful surviving accounts we have today.
Part 1. A Life Before America. West Africa, 1770.
You see, Omar's story didn't start in chains. He was born in West Africa around 1770 and raised as a Muslim. He spent his time studying Arabic, learning the Quran, and really becoming a highly educated man. He had his own language, his own future, all within a society that was just rich with scholars and traditions. This completely turns the way history so often presents enslaved Africans right on its head.
Part 2. The Shock of Captivity. A Stolen Future.
The psychological whiplash he must have experienced here is just staggering. Think about it. One day, he's a respected scholar, a Muslim with a deep, rich past. Then, after surviving a brutal ocean crossing, he's suddenly surrounded by a totally foreign language, treated as mere property, and stuck in a society that flat out refused to recognize his humanity. But, and this is absolutely crucial, even in this harsh new reality, Omar remembered exactly who he was.
Part 3. Writing as Resistance. Escape to Fayetteville.
Despite this violent dehumanization, Omar totally refused to just disappear. He eventually escaped from slavery, made his way north to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and walked right into a church. And once inside, he began writing on the walls in Arabic. It's like he used his native language as this vital, lifeline bridge between the world he had lost and the nightmare he was forced to endure.
Because for Omar, his faith wasn't just some separate part of his identity, It was deeply woven right into it. His memory of the Quran and his absolute mastery of Arabic connected him directly back to his childhood homeland. It basically ensured that even when everything around him was physically destroyed, his internal world remained completely untouched.
Part 4. The Surviving Autobiographies. His own words. So, Omar achieved something truly extraordinary that gives historians this incredibly valuable gift. He actually wrote an autobiography in Arabic. And because his physical words survived, we aren't stuck just reading some description written about him by a captor or relying on somebody else's biased interpretation. No, we're receiving his own direct voice and his very own memory. I mean, in early American history, having this level of primary preservation directly from an enslaved person is literally a 1 in a million find.
Part 5. An Unforgettable Legacy. The Power of Identity. Now, we have to be really careful here not to romanticize his forced, violent circumstances. Slavery was an unimaginably brutal institution. His faith didn't just magically erase his immense suffering, and it certainly didn't fix the reality of his captivity. But what it did do was protect a core piece of himself that slavery simply could not destroy. It was almost like a fortress of identity, built entirely in his own mind.
Just take a moment and imagine this elderly man looking back on a life he never asked for, an ocean away from the land where he was born. The people who captured him, they're long gone, and the world has completely changed. And yet, well over 2 centuries later, his actual handwriting and his voice are still speaking to us today.
His enduring message to us is so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. You might be able to take a person's physical freedom, but you can't always take their memory, and you certainly cannot always take their faith. Omar's life is undeniable proof that humanity and identity can survive the absolute worst conditions imaginable. An African Muslim scholar became an enslaved man who left behind a voice that resonates through history. Today, we aren't just looking at some dusty historical artifact. When we read his words, we are hearing a real person who endured slavery and held on to his God. He never completely forgot Allah, no matter what they did to him.
His body was taken across an ocean, sure, but his story has traveled so much farther, leaving us with this really critical question to ponder. What exactly remains when everything else is stripped away? You know, history is often way more complicated than the simple textbook stories we grew up with. If you believe surviving accounts like Omar's matter as much as we do, and you want to keep exploring these historical deep dives, definitely subscribe and share this explainer. Thanks so much for joining us, and hey, never stop seeking the truth.